And for example, another thing is that the Japanese value, they don't really evaluate that much. They do evaluate, but it's not really emphasized on the results of the research, but rather how much devotion and hardworking, how much hardworking you are that you have put into your research studies. And they really appreciate this sense that you have done all you can and have put all your effort into your scientific discipline. And also, they tend to avoid conflict, and it's also, again, very much, I think, influenced by their philosophical, the idea that if you are in a society, you are supposed to live in harmony. And one way to maintain this harmony is to avoid conflict. And even if you disagree with your research colleagues because you have a different perspective or an opinion, it is also implicit in the language that you do not say it out loud, rather you keep it to yourself. So respect to other research colleagues is extremely important, and it's very much evaluated in your personality to become a researcher. And also, the other striking difference that I realize is that in Japan, the research is very detail-oriented. They really like precisions and details rather than general and abstract concepts of sciences. So this is when I went to Japan, I realized that after moving countries, that actually the science and technologies is influenced by the culture, and Japan is a very special, and it's a very obvious example of that. And I think that partly it's influenced by the language, which is very implicit and subtle, and also that there are many social rules embedded within the language. And it's very interesting to see how this influences the organization and the community, the research community, to carry out research. And I've been in Japan for maybe almost 3 years now. And it took me quite some time to get used to moving because when I was in France, we were taught to argue and be very explicit if we disagree with something. So I had to change again my perspective and follow a very strict rule of respect and loyalty toward my professor. And out of all of this, I realized that it is very important to know and understand others. And because when we do start to understand and know them, it helps us to understand why things are the way they are, why research is being performed in such a way. And in some ways, you start to appreciate your own culture and background. And I think the best thing is that when you're constantly exposed to different disciplines and people from different culture, it's actually a very rich parameter, because you're always forced to constantly reflect. And I guess this is again when you talk about empathy, that it is very useful to put yourself in the situation and learn from them how they approach problem solving, because from what I've seen, from my experience, there is inherently a difference between how the Americans tend to solve problems, to the style of writing a research paper, and their views of what is science and technology. And the best part is that when you're in this situation, is to embrace the strong points and practice it. Because when you are young, you are developing and finding your role as what is my role as a researcher, what is my role as a young scientist, and what is my role in this society and to a larger community at large. And this is the best time for young people to be exposed to such an environment, because it's a very, very rich learning parameters. And every day is a very exciting and new experience when you meet different researchers from different disciplines. So my talk is a little bit short because I wanted to share more on my personal experience, and my intention of sharing this and giving a small example of how my scientific discipline changed from different countries as a result of the interaction and the type of style of education. And I would like to encourage, like, young women that, if you want to do something, you should go out there. It's very difficult when you leave your country because, you miss your language, you miss your culture, you miss your family, but there is not enough money in the world that can buy you that experience, because it is not just, research, science and technology is not just the goal of producing product, but it is the journey which matters most for me, I think, because it really is very important at this age to develop your concept of self with a very strong foundation, and being exposed in that environment really, really helps. So that is my very short talk for today. So thank you very much.